Welcome to another episode of Blended Views Unfiltered. This is DeAndre.
This is Nick.
This is Kenesha.
And today we are graced with 4 guests on the show. I'm going to let them introduce themselves because I ain't got the time to be doing it. Shelton.
Okay. Well, you didn't already said it. My name is Sheldon.
Jasmine.
My name is Mark.
My name is Wade.
Mark and Wade have been on the show before. Y'all, it's been a while. I know Wade made an appearance on Our Guys show in February for Valentine's Day.
So me and Jazz are then the podcast virgin.
Yes, we popping a cherry today. All right, we popping a cherry. Mark done been on several times, dropping gems. Wade was on the go back to the episode back in February on the All Guys. It was off the chain. It was yes.
Why I only get invited to the one where y'all talking? Never mind.
They don't even know what we talking.
You're right.
Anyways, as y'all can see, this is the setup today. So for those of you who are watching via YouTube, it may look a little awkward, but we go get it done today. So today, we have a touchy, sensitive, unsensitive subject.
Spicy.
We are going to be talking about why millennials are leaving the church or do not attend church. And this is a trickle-down effect, too, because now you see the generations coming up after us who are also not attending church. We're not saying don't believe in God. They're just not attending church. Now, before we even get started, give this disclaimer. We're not bashing church. We're not bashing individual churches or people. I don't know what everyone's going to say, so maybe they are. But we're not going to name drop. So this is no... we ain't trying to pick a fight with y'all church folk and the holy folk. All right. We just up here telling our truth and maybe stories that either pertain to us or those close to us. So in hopes that we could bring forth change or at least awareness on how trash some of y'all are or how great some of y'all are. But we gonna keep it a buck at the end of the day. So this let me not say debate topic.
It's a topic.
I think has been around for a very long time, and it usually dwells in little pockets of people outside the church, and we have these conversations, but no one has really brought it to the forefront to speak about it on any kind of big stage or radio. You hear the topic, but everyone stays politically correct for whatever reason, and nothing really comes of it. You know, you get some gems, and ultimately you just get people who say just come to the church. So, but we want to know why. So we go talk about this today. And this topic came up a few months ago. I was scrolling through Facebook and I happened to see quite a few posts and then a live that I had to jump on. So she don't know it, but I'm going to actually let her take the lead because she was on fire that day. It inspired me. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn this over to Jazz because Jazz, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Jazz was the one who really, she inspired the panel, and we need to get this talked about. So Jazz, tell us why you wanted to you felt it to be important to bring this topic to the forefront.
Okay. Put me on the spot, y'all. So being a millennial and just my own journey with the church, going to multiple churches, being raised in the church. Church was lit when we was younger. The church I went to, our youth directors, I mean, it was fun. Everybody in the hood wanted to come. Like that's what it used to be. Like it was fun. You know, people were, I don't know. I guess it just depends on who the head or whatever is, but it was a great experience. And then now where I am, I think I was triggered by this because of my journey with church and where, I guess you could say where I am right now. And watching everybody else's experiences as well. And just like, dang, everybody leaving. So for those who don't know, like the church we go to, my husband is a youth director. And our churches went through a lot of changes, a lot. So it's like we're building again from scratch. And I'm like, where's everybody at? where did everybody go? You got your people who, they no longer believe in the church. And I have conversations with those people. I don't just, X them out like, oh, you don't believe in church. You don't come to church no more. I'm not that type of person to where I just X people out because of everybody has their experiences. I have my experiences. And I know there's been times where I'm sitting in church and I'm like, y'all really don't rock with me the way y'all say y'all do. You don't like that I'm in my messy phase of whatever healing I'm going through or, what I'm experiencing. You're not even getting to know that. You just want me to come to church and be this, it's all good. You good, script. Girl. Pray about it. Let's not talk about mental health in the church. Wow. Just pray about it, and it's gonna be okay. Here's this book, and go on about your way. And it's like, so how did that help me? It's been times where I've been at churches, because I've been to multiple churches where I feel like I'm at the altar, and you're in your most vulnerable state of your life, and you feel like nobody is there for you. It's all a show. If you're not a part of this clique, you're not a part of that clique, you're nobody. That's why I know I stepped away from church for a while, and the pandemic just helped me even more to sit and grow my relationship with God, me and God. I don't want to be, I always pick with him, but I don't want to be just known as Wade's wife. That's what it was, Wade's wife. Oh, because of Wade, or Wade this, Wade that. I'm like, I love my husband, but I'm an individual as well. Just because he's here in his journey and I'm here, there was instances where people would ask him what's wrong with me instead of coming to talk to me. Worried about my attitude, making comments about my attitude or what I'm posting on social media, or checking him for what I'm posting on social media. What does that have to do with anything besides your image? But it's what I'm going through. It's what I'm experiencing. It's my life. But how are you going to help me get there? So I feel like seeing everybody else's journey, what they're going through, what they're experiencing, why they're leaving the church, why they don't believe in the word, because some church folk like to use the word to their advantage. Not what the Bible says, but they use it in the moment where I need to use this for you, like to cut you up right now. But really, that ain't even what the word is about. What are you talking about? You just use that against me for what? But it's like that. I feel like that intimacy, that community, a lot of times it could be so fake, so phony, and it's just for looks. And one thing about me, I don't care what nobody got to say. I don't care what you got to think. What you think about me. I don't care your perspective of me. I don't care, because you don't know what I'm going through behind closed doors. All you see is what I present to you. So when you asking my husband questions about me, but you're not coming to me, talking to me about what it is that I may be going through. There has maybe been 2 people the whole time I was at a particular church that ever came to me and approached me about just how I am and how I carry myself, but it was in a very respectful manner. And I'm like, I can rock with you. I trust you. I always tell Wade, I'm like, I never really, how you go places and you take to people. I'm like, I never had nobody I took to, that church sister or church brother. Is just be like, hey, how you doing? Okay, I'm here, get my word, and I'm out. Because I see how y'all talk about each other. I see how y'all do each other. I see how you live your life in the streets, but then you come to church and you're doing this, but then you're trying to condemn me for what I'm doing. Correct. How does that work? I know you too. I know how you drag people and talk about people. It just doesn't work that way. And I feel like a lot of people in the church use what they want to use to their advantage. And like you said, nobody's really talking about it. Everyone's scared to talk about it. And I feel like at that moment when I did that live, I was in a place where I'm like, I don't care anymore. I don't care if you're going to say, because a lot of times, let's be real, me and him, we talked about it. I'm like, a lot of times I won't say stuff, I won't do stuff out of respect for you because of where I know you're trying to go. But that's not living my truth. I dummy myself down and put myself in a box for the image of everybody else instead of allowing myself to go through what I need to go through to, become who it is that I need to become in the church. Like, my journey's not going to be what someone else's is. I'm not, I can't walk in this person's steps. I'm not coming to church with a skirt on down to my ankle, or I like my piercings. I like my colored hair.
Stockings.
I like my tattoos.
Stockings.
Stockings. I'm not doing that. That's just not where I am. And, a lot of times I say, well, if I'm going to hell, I'll see you when I get there, because you probably gonna be there before me. You know what I'm saying? Just because we don't see your but just because we don't see what you do or what you got going on behind closed doors. There's some people, what they got going on behind closed doors, and you got the nerve what?
Join on the bandwagon with all
you know what I'm saying? So, like, right now, I feel like my perspective in it is, when he got put in the position that he got put in, the first thing I asked our pastor, so you sure you know me, you know how I am. The same way I'm outside of the church, you're gonna get the same
correct
inside the church. So, but he knew that.
What position is that? What that may be?
Youth director.
He's youth director at the church. So
Trying to get some clarity.
yeah, so he's youth director.
Okay.
Oh, you said so. He and I, we talk, how do we now how do we get our peers, how do we get our peers and our people back, because we still believe, we still believe in God, we still have our faith, we still pray. How do we bring them back to building that community in the church? And we still late, we still live it like everybody think church is this boring thing, which it can be. Everybody sitting around doing the same thing and, practicing whatever they be practicing. But, how do we get it? Because I've been a part of things in churches where it's I want to be there. I got to be there. We about to have the time of our life. And it's somehow along the way, I feel like I seen somebody comment on the post that I made. They felt like we start getting pushed out. They don't want they don't like change. They don't want the change from the way we wear our hair to the way we dress.
It's the stockings.
They don't like that change. So they they pushed a lot of people out because they say come as you are, but is it truly come as you are? Mm-hmm. If I'm fighting, whatever my sexuality is, can I come to church and not be judged? If I'm living my life in the streets, doing what I do, can I come to the church after I go out the night before? And you smell the alcohol, the weed, whatever on me, and you not judge me? And you just love on me like you loving on everybody else? Does that make me any different? If we're created in his image, why does that make you any better than me? Because you feel like you're wherever, you're sitting up here. I don't know, y'all. I can go on and on, because a lot of people just, they create these imaginary roles that ain't even in the Bible. All right, y'all. So it's so much stuff.
We're gonna all piggyback after everything you didn't say. Trust me.
I think you were saying,
listen, I'm about to get in there.
People, I don't know. We've created our own, and I think that's where it is. Because people have created their own version of different roles, how things should be, and not just sticking to what it is. If we believe in the Bible, why is it okay for you to make stuff up, but it's not okay for people to do, live the way that they live? I feel like with that happening, it creates these groups. It creates all these little pockets of, you don't make enough money, so, you can't rock with us.
Factions.
Or, you got kids and so you don't qualify because you got a lot of kids, or you don't drive this type of car, or, the kids.
They matter.
The kids, y'all.
Or your kids not wearing
or
the certain things.
or your kid ain't a part this, that, and the third. So, you know, it just really don't matter. Or you just are not, you are not that high priority to me. So, yeah, I have somebody else deal with you. Like, what is that? People, I don't know. People, they done mess it up. I'll be saying church folk. I'm going to stop saying church folk because I'm a church folk.
It's just people.
What I say, people being people.
People being people, but it's unfortunate that the people in the church are being people and pushing people out when you're supposed to be the place where people come.
I think the issue is that we say it's people, but it's people doing these things in the name of God. That is the issue.
That right there.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said. And to piggyback, I personally feel the reason why. Well, let me start by saying this. I personally feel the church has actually taught us hypocrisy. The church has taught us how to put on the fashions and present ourselves a certain way so that we are tolerable. And like you said, it's all about how you look. You know, how much money do you make? Can you contribute to our building fund? You know, like if we decide
The never ending building fund.
Okay. We ain't got chairs yet. You know
Where's
what I'm saying?
the building?
I think that it's people being people, but the issue always comes back to they're representing a loving God in a way that is pushing people away from religion. And religion is not necessarily the issue. You get what I'm saying? Like, there are good things to religion. The issue is relationship trumps religion. And when we have people that are taking these things and making it be, well, God said, it's like, no, you said that. You know what I'm saying? So I personally think that's where the issue lies.
Putting your little, they put their little spin on it.
Because Jesus has been Jesus. He's been the same Jesus from the beginning all the way up until now. But what has changed is the interpretations and the delivery system now it is. I feel like I always say that the only person who puts value on sin is people. We're the ones who say, okay, you raped this child, you should go to jail. Oh, you just told a white lie. Oh, you're okay. No, at the end of the day, when you go stand before God, he doesn't put value on sin. He said, you sinned. That's it.
Right.
So, you know, I've definitely feel a lot of the things that you said. The hypocrisy is super real. And it was the reason why I stayed, when I was younger, I stayed super quiet in the church. And I didn't do anything. Most people didn't know who I was, but I knew who everyone else was. I literally watched. I can tell you what Sister So-and-so was going to wear on the third Sunday. Okay. I can tell you why Mama put on that hat. And I can tell you that the pastor's daughter or the minister's daughter and son, they was doing this. And that's the reason why I had at the altar crying their eyes out. But guess what? Monday night, they're going to do the same exact thing that they crying their eyes out about. So for me, it kind of like ain't like housed me in a sense. And it was like, I don't want to be like that. So when I got to the point where I was struggling in my faith, I just was like, you know what? I ain't going back until I want to, until I yearn to, because I didn't want to be the person going to the altar, asking for forgiveness consistently, and then going back out to do the same thing. I'm going to just do my dirt until I'm done. And once I'm done with my dirt, I'll go back.
Are you really ever done?
certain dirt, you know.
But why is it that, and I could be wrong in my thoughts in this, but why have we conditioned people to feel that the church is not the place to bring your dirt? You get what I'm saying?
Because a lot of times we witness more dirt in the church than we do out in the world. What people in the church call it the world. We witness way more dirt in church. I would say being born and raised in the church and being a musician and seeing behind the scenes things, I witnessed a lot more craziness behind the scenes in church than I ever seen in the hood.
Correct.
So a lot of times it's kind of like when you get people, especially when you get people who are not like from church per se, and like maybe they came like when they were a teenager or as young adults, and they come in, usually street smarts, they come to church and they be like, oh nah bro, I recognize you already. Even if I ain't never seen you, I just recognize what's on you already. So why would I come in and put my trust wholeheartedly in you when you look like homeboy out here, or worse? Matter of fact, it is worse because of who you represent, who you say you represent. who you say you are, then it's worse when there's more dirt in the church. So that's a reason why, as well as we've witnessed a lot of people in our family, especially in the Black culture, be more hurt by people in the church, have their name ran through the mud more by more people in the church than we have outside of the church.
That's good.
I agree with that. I definitely agree with that.
That's very good.
I guess, again, we have just created these environments where, like, I'm not saying that the church is a free-for-all and there should be no honor in what we do and how we do things. I just personally feel like at the end of the day, the church is for community, right? And if we're supposed to be like-minded individuals, if I'm struggling with something or I'm dealing with something, if this is my community, why is there no room for me to bring this and in a healthy way? We talk through this, whether it's mental illness, whatever it is, like there's just not room. We have created this culture where before you get here, you got to get it together. Right. And for some people, like their version of get it together doesn't meet the standards of what's necessary to be included. And it's not until you have some form of value, whether it's money, you know, your appearance, whatever, then all of a sudden your value goes up. And then it's almost like what you do doesn't really matter as much. You know what I'm saying? And so I think all in all, we have created a culture, and I say we intentionally because I think, and this is no disrespect to any of us, but each and every one of us sitting at this table has participated in creating a culture in church where this continues. The purpose of this conversation is to figure out, okay, what can we do to fix it? Some of us may not be involved in church as much, but like we are the church. You know what I'm saying?
That's how we supposed to be.
Do you think there's a lot more negativity towards the church that we stir up? Like, these conversations, like, I don't think that there's a perfect church out there.
Oh, no.
And I think that a lot of people go into church looking for it to be perfect opposed to looking for it to be fed. And I think a lot of times there's so much negativity that surrounds the church that negativity can spread like an infection. And I think that a lot of times, like I said, I think a lot of people can't find the perfect church, or they find a little bit of things wrong in the church, and then now that church doesn't work for them and the negativity spreads. So my question is there just a lot of negativity around church? Because, you know, you hear a lot about how bad the church is, and rarely, you know, there ain't too many churches that a lot of people just feel comfortable and like, this is where I need to be.
I feel like there's not a lot of people that are living the life that draws people to the church. Like, letting people see who you are first before they know that you attend church. Because if your outward appearance and your outward personality and your character is showing something like, man, yo, that dude, he got something going for him. Then you start talking about Jesus, and they like, wait a minute, you go to church?
Right.
Like, yeah, this is, but like my wife said, this is me. I was chosen for a role because of who I am, not because of what I'm like trying to be, you know. So I tell the kids all the time, I'm like, listen, I ain't nobody's preacher, pastor, nothing like that right now. I'm learning with y'all, but I want y'all to know that being here is still cool. Y'all different.
Do you think that too many people want to make the outer appearance look too, like I feel like I'm attracted to a more authentic person. I'd rather see a person mess up and say, you know what, I'm still human. This is who I am. Than to try to find this shiny gold person and say, hey, I want to go where he's going. Like, I like to
see people being flawed at the same time.
Like, I'm cool with seeing a person. Like, for instance, like me and Dre was talking, it was a pastor that he was going to the church, and, you know, him and his wife kind of getting a little bit of back and forth, but he was like, you know what, this is us, this is real, this is who we are, opposed to the pastor that on the outer appearance, hey, we're all good, you know, we're the happiest couple, and if you ever see them behind closed doors, really hate their marriage, and then you're trying to give marriage counseling. Like, I'm more of a type of person where it's like,
oh, you didn't brought marriage into there.
Come on,
that's the part. Like, I would rather
tip
see
my head off.
I'm more attracted to a human than to try to appear like you get it all together personally.
And I think that speaks to our generation. So we're more we grew up in the reality television phase. And if you go past hypocrisy, I think that's an easy level. But if you dig underneath there, it's a lack of leadership that has a pulse on what society is doing.
Absolutely.
So back in the 60s, the civil rights, let's take that for an instance. If you look at the leadership for civil rights, they came out of the church. So that made the church automatically relevant.
And
But
almost
then,
like a safe space.
absolutely. And then that's where we came, not only for spiritual knowledge, but how to perform as our family units were.
It was our newspaper. It was your living
Yeah.
newspaper. Yeah.
So what ended up happening is, over a period of time, leadership started keeping information to themselves and not training and molding people to come after them. A lot of these churches don't really have a succession plan. So we have older leaders who probably, let's just be real, they should give it up because you're 80, 90, and God bless them. But at the same time,
Thank you for living that.
Your-
long. Good job.
your ministry is dying a slow death. And some ministries are dying faster than others because you have not really stayed relevant to the times. And I think that's what's happening. And the previous generation, they just relied on what the pastor told them.
Yes.
See, we're in the information age.
Yes.
Yep.
So
I was
while
gonna say that.
while the message is going on, I can fact check you within
Yep.
Seconds.
seconds. It used to be like, all right, I'm taking notes and now I got to go wait till Monday, go to the library, then wait till Wednesday and bring the question up to. No, like I could literally look it up in seconds. And that's why I'm grateful for the ministry I attend because our pastor is from our generation. So not only is he able to relate to us, because I think we're at a perfect age because we're all middle aged pretty much. Except for
We
Sheldon. I
middle-aged?
don't know about
Well,
you.
no, we're not middle aged.
Let me speak for me.
ain't even
Let me speak
30
for
yet.
me.
Oh,
I'm younger than most.
Hey, let me speak for me. I'm about
I'm looking at
for,
Would you say 30 plus?
for me.
30 plus.
I was born
I was gonna
in
say, hold on now.
1983, right?
No, you ain't got
Yeah. so
Has
so
to be
I'm
gifted at
pushing
the
I'm pushing 40. So I can
That's
appreciate.
not even middle age. You're still a young brother.
I
I
appreciate.
thought middle age was like 50.
But
I
the
thought it
point
was too, yeah.
the point
the
I'm
point
making
is-
is, I think all of us can still appreciate what the it's funny.
Put the man health business out there.
But we could really appreciate what the previous generation, like the good qualities that they had. But then we can also analyze the. You got to be careful with that word. You could say the wrong word. But no, we can really dissect. Like we could dissect the things that the previous generation fell short in. Because they'll try to make it appear as if they were perfect. They'll try to make it appear as if, they never had arguments or they never had a shootout in the parking lot. And I'll just give a brief history for me. I was a pastor's son. So I grew up in a pastor's house. And like Dre said, I was a musician as well. So when it comes to behind the scenes stuff, there was a point in time, and DeAndre me and him talked like real time while it was happening. I said basically F church because of stuff that had happened. But I'm grateful for the foundation that I was given. But sadly, what happened with a lot of our peers is when we were younger, many of us were made to go to church.
Yeah.
Or we were sent to church. A lot of us were sent to church and our parents didn't come with us.
correct.
But then we grew a level of resentment towards church to where we was like, well, when we get older, man, I'm not going to church. I'm not doing this. And then now we're having kids. And now people my age, they have grandkids. So the cycle is continuous.
Really?
Yeah. So so yeah, I think but one more thing, I think it was Gandhi, he said something to the effect of 'cause he was of the Hindu or whatever it was influence. And he said that I love your Christ, but the problem he had was with his Christians. And many times we serve a perfect God, but then we should strive towards perfection, but then at the same time, how do we kind of help regulate ourselves amongst ourselves, hold each other accountable,
Right.
for one, but then also we could hold each other accountable, but then we could do it in love too.
Absolutely.
So if I see Sheldon, pimp slapping some girl down the street, or no, that's outrageous. But
You in my business, Mark?
sorry about that.
Who you been talking to?
No, but if I see my brother falling, there's a way I can handle it.
Yeah.
There's a right way and there's a wrong way. The right way is to, even the scripture says, if your brother offends you, you go to your brother. What we do is, we got it on the video, we go on live, and now the whole internet done, and then now the whole internet knows Sheldon is connected to the church, and then now the perception is, oh, he's just another one of those church people,
Well,
and this is what they do.
I think part of it too is, and let's admit it, we have learned to love to watch people fall.
Absolutely.
That's true.
We have
Can't wait for the next team.
that is like, oh, so and so cheating on their wife.
Shut up. That's me.
I thought they was messing up. So
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
we have fallen in love with, like, as much as we want to talk about community, like what you're even talking about, just say in like the 60s, that's missing because, in my opinion, the church has become big business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It is a
That's the
business.
thing.
You know what I'm saying? And the reason why there's not a true like connection to what's happening around is because we want to make sure that we say the right things and we don't want to offend anybody. But at the same time, it's like it's not being like genuine.
Yeah, and
know
I
what
think
I'm saying?
one of the most important words you mentioned earlier was culture. And each individual ministry has its own culture. And now we, as a culture, like you said, we do enjoy drama and, the tea, for the ladies and, all that stuff. But even in biblical times, some of the most crucial rebukes that Jesus gave was to the Pharisees because they behaved in the same manner. And he talked about them always wanting to be out in the front, giving the appearance of godliness with their religious, exercises and everything. But he always called them vipers or hypocrites and stuff because their hearts did not reflect the God that they were talking about. So we are, I think Wade touched on this, we are the church's greatest advertisement, to where I don't have to wear a T-shirt, or I shouldn't have to wear a T-shirt saying I am a Christian. When people see us at work, at Walmart or whatever, they should be able to say, hey, there's something different about this dude. But then what also happens is some people in the church try to fit in with the world too. So this whole discussion is so many layers and facets
many
to
layers.
it. So
It's like a Rubik's Cube.
yeah. So I think all in all, it's important that we get under the right leadership.
Yes.
Somebody who has they have a finger kind of on the pulse of where the world is, and they could speak to everything that's going on in the world. And I'm sorry, it might sound like generation bashing or whatever, but flatly, some of these people need to give it up. They need to give it up, and we need to really immediately, and we need to analyze, and they need to really self-analyze. Like, why am I really doing this? And that's something I do even in music ministry. I make sure that my heart is right before I even go forth amongst people, because I could easily fall into, okay, this is a gig, and I've been playing music for the last 35 years or whatever, and this is all I know what to do. But at the same time, I could cause people to fall based upon what I do too.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I like that point, especially with where we are in our journey in the church, and then personally on our spiritual journeys, because we're two individual, different, people. So he's where he is, I'm where I am. Of course, we trying to meet each other, but that's good. What you're saying, you want to make sure your heart is right, it's pure, because people following you or whatever they're taking to that you're giving, they start to fall away. And I know one thing, anytime I'm approached about stuff, I'm like, yeah, I ain't there yet. No matter how much, people are like, no, it's in you. You got it. Now I ain't out here knocking people over the head. Stealing stuff. I ain't doing, but I know there are things that I still need to.
I see it.
I need to work on. So
That's what she is.
I feel like it's imperative to make sure before and I don't care who it is, how long they've been preaching, you know, what they're doing. It's imperative to make sure that you're right, you're whole, in a good position with yourself before you sitting here trying to do anything for anybody else, especially when it comes to God, because eventually people gonna pick up on your bull, like some way, somehow, like no matter what it is, like it's gonna come to light and people gonna be like, oh, like,
See, that's why they tell you not to, that if you're gonna be, that's why they supposed to say your house is supposed to come first, because if you're not together, like, where I was married in a position, I was also a youth pastor and everything like that. It was like, wait a minute, our lights got shut off yesterday. Wait a minute, you just hit me the other day. Wait a minute. And it's like, can we just sit down? How about we just learn together? And it's like, no, I'm supposed to be on the pulpit. And then it's like, it's not authentic. So now it hurts me. And then now I'm sitting there watching you up there praising God and you preaching and you saying God is here. And I'm just like, is he here?
You want to take the shoe off?
And now it affected me and my call. So now it causes my discernment to go up, because now I'm looking at all the pastors and just like, nope. I seen the way you looked at your wife in that moment. You got the same trait. That's all right. I'm going home. I'm going to just watch TD Jakes on the TV because I can't deal with the mask on and the mask off. And I remember a conversation I had with my dad. I said, I would rather be with someone, I would rather deal with a thug on the street, a drug dealer, and I'm going to know exactly who he is and know everything to expect, than have someone that's going to be at the church and you going to just fill me this bunch of crap, but then you gonna give me all the stuff of the thug and you trying to mess up with my belief system. Like, that's just too much for me. I can't deal with it.
So what happens when, or what do we say to the person who has been through something like that? Or let's say they went through something drastic and the church turned their back on them and now they formed a resentment to God.
I got a question, because it's going to be a difference than the church turning their back on you, because there's also people where you're just forgotten. See,
same thing, because you can get shunned.
No,
because if leadership has shunned you and the followers of leadership are just following after their leaders, then that's them basically still turning their back on you.
No, the reason why I say it's a difference is because if I'm the known crew, I'm in the high faction, right? And you see me every day, and then I come to you about my problem, right? And then because of the problem, you like, yeah, no, I can't deal with that. I don't know what to tell you. You need to get yourself right, and you need to do this, and then you're shunned because of what you've done. But then you have the person who's always in the back of the church where no one ever realizes. Everyone doesn't know who they are. You're forgotten. You're not shunned. The church didn't turn their back on you, but no one knew who you were.
You're not forgotten if they didn't know who you were in the first place.
You're forgotten.
I mean, I get what you're saying.
You're forgotten because, like I said, I was the type of person who sat and no one knew who I was. And in them not knowing who I was, it wasn't lost. That I just was lost in the sauce. Yeah. And it was just like no one realized that I stopped coming to church. Yeah. I just was a part of the lower faction that no one knew. I keep saying this word because I just got finished watching The Divergent. So I just was a part. You just need a smaller church. I just was factionless. I don't need no smaller.
Okay,
church.
So listen. So that's two different questions then. So the first
church with 12 people,
it's different.
You can't.
That's a family.
But everybody's a deacon. And
so listen. Okay. So
No, you go ahead.
To the first question. So the first question, because that's two different things.
Okay.
First question: what happens when the church turns their back on you, and that person forms a resentment toward God, because God, obviously, the church was a representation of God. That happens a lot to a lot of people that I've talked to and around our age has been through that, and they're currently going through that, where it's like, well, I formed a resentment about God. God don't care about me because he allowed this church to mishandle me in my situation. So you expect me to believe in God, let alone go to somebody's church.
That's where your relationship with God That a lot of times we don't, and that's another layer is we don't want to take responsibility for ourselves.
Correct.
A lot of people, myself, I had to get to the point where like it's time for you to stop acting like a little. Get yourself together. Like ain't nobody did nothing to you directly. You sitting here mad at God for what? Because you down on yourself.
He didn't even show yourself.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you're
you're not doing.
I feel like there's two questions. There's two different questions that happen when something like that happens. Now, question number one is, why is this happening to me? Why are these people turning their back on me? Why are these people forgetting me? That victimizes you. The second question is, what needs to happen so that I can get through this? Who do I need to talk to? Where do I need to go? What do I need to change about maybe me so that I can become an individual and also then have Jesus like really just look at me, you know, like it's an internal thing like for you as well, because you can't ask why, because the why will victimize you, because you'll be like, you know, out there just floating.
Comes with maturity though.
That's another thing I was gonna touch on, because there's maturity and there's growth.
And why are you going to church?
Right? Why are you there?
Why are you supposed to go to church? You're
Why
supposed
are you
to be
there?
there for God.
Exactly.
You know.
People go for the people.
And then you're going for the people,
that sounds
and
fashion
you're going for
shows
the
and
clout,
whatnot.
and then the fashion show and all of that kind of stuff. We can't do that. What you about to say?
Well, Mark says something too that I like what you said about the ministries dying a slow death, and that's because if I heard somebody say if it's ripe it's rotten, or if it's green it's growing. So if it's dying a slow death, then I'm feeling like there's no growth that's happening. There's a lot of motions that are happening. There's a lot of wheels that are just turning. There's a lot of just going through, oh, blessed and highly favored. It's a lot of those going on. It's praise the Lord. Like somebody said, pray about it. It's a lot of that stuff just going on. But okay, well, why can't you teach me how to strategically pray? I had struggled with that word.
It's
just
okay.
now.
It's all right.
Y'all know what I'm saying.
It's specific. It's specific. I can't say specific. It's specific.
I mess up every episode.
But see, it's like when people say you got to do this, you got to do that. Well, just teach me
Yeah.
the path. Like, what do you? And when I teach the youth, I'm teaching them strategic prayers. Like, what is that? Okay, you're gonna pray for health and good nutrition and things, but for what?
Yeah.
I do agree.
Millennials are show me's.
So to the first part of your response, okay, so a child's born into this world, right? You know, you're a good, upstanding parent. You're raising your kids or whatnot, and then something happens. Who does that child have the most trust in? His parent, right? So something happens with the parent and the relationship. Pretty much, you feel that, correct? So let's take someone who had never been in church and they go to church for the first time at 17, 18 years old, and they're now being raised in their religion or whatever else. So they're raised up. So when something happens drastically or crazy in that church, from that church, by way of that church, to this person, they're damaged now, right? Because their full trust was in the people who taught them something. So it's easy to say the maturity of that person is something, but when you have your whole trust in a thing, it's easy to bring forth any kind of doubt until, of course, because let's not forget the human side of things. We're all humans at the end of the day. And when something happens to us, we feel it first before we actually start to rationalize it. So you go feel what you feel first. So if you're sitting there and maybe form a resentment against God until you're actually rationally thinking, then you're going to maybe place blame on God because these people have now hurt me in the name of God. And that's where my trust was.
Okay.
So how is it easy for me to say, well, with my maturity and who I am as an adult and as a Christian now, or whatever your faith is, how can I wholeheartedly now discount these people but still be centered here?
See, here's the thing.
Go ahead. I think that there's two types of people when it comes to that. I think that a person that gets hurt immediately, and I will have to agree with you, then that's a hurtful thing because you don't know no better. And I think that's why churches do need to place these people in a specific section of new growth and a new Christian, because they need to be taught differently. But I think there's a lot of people that go to church. So I say that to say that to that example. But back to the original question, I think there's a lot of people that do go to church for years and never actually establish a relationship with God. Like, you put so much trust into people, and then when people fail you, now you're sitting there like, they hurt me. But the reality of it, churches should be equipping people to go out and be able to handle your own situation. Like, you should be able to go out and pray for yourself. Like, you can't constantly, Pastor, can you pray for me? Pastor, can you pray? And then people get mad. It's like, you've been coming to church. I've been teaching you how to pray for yourself. Why? Like, you should be able to pray for your house and what you should be doing by yourself. Well, and like I said, that's a certain type of person. But I do agree with you. New Christians, and that happens a lot. New Christians that come and then they might see something or see someone from the church that may kind of flaw your vision on things. But I definitely think that we need to start going to church, figuring out how we can equip ourselves to handle our own situations outside of the church.
I say a part of the church that is missing is new members, okay? I remember my church, we had new members. So these is what new members went. And the reason why new members need to go there is because you need to understand what exactly you were believing in. At that point, that was supposed to allow you to create that relationship with God so that you realize that I'm not here for you, and you, okay? That you're a bonus. But if you ain't here today, I'm still going to church tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? But that also leads into something to what Mark was saying, that things are dying, because if you really look at it, most of the churches now, they don't have deacons. They don't have trustees. There's not a lot of elders. There's not a lot of ministers. You got people naming themselves ministers. You got people naming themselves evangelists, you know, by their own cognizance. But at the end of the day, it's all going away because no one's in the position. And also, the people who are in these positions are literally dying.
I think sometimes, too, that's that new generation
like
trying
they're
to
dead.
create a new situation. Because how many people we hear from, I hear people like, we got to have a different, man, how many churches we hear here nowadays, like, we got a different type of structure. We ain't doing the old type stuff.
I personally think, like, when we peel this entire conversation back, like, I personally feel when it comes to the church, let's just be honest, some of the things that happen in church, like, our families do some of the same stuff to us every day.
Right.
Yes.
Right?
Boyfriend.
Exactly.
It's a
and
relationship.
Like, but for whatever reason, we do find it very easy to, like, oh, the church hurt me. You know what I'm saying? And I think part of it is what happens with most churches with the process. I have a different perspective when it comes to, like, new members, because in my church experience, those are the people that when they first come in, they make them feel good.
Exactly.
You know, when they get there, it's like, oh, you get you a cup. You know, we want to make you feel.
You gave me the notebook?
We want to make you feel like you're important, but then we set people up because.
I remember 3 weeks in a row one time.
I can't.
So
Did you got the video twice, huh? You got the video 3 times.
He picked up on it afterwards.
But I think we set people up because we present this idea of community, and then they get involved, and it's like, oh, this is nice. Like, you know, sister so-and-so, they so friendly when you walk through the door. But then what happens is, like, and we talked about this earlier, it's like, if you don't meet the social standards, that's where you do become forgotten. Like, I
just fall in the
let's
background.
just say this. Mark, DeAndre, I think would agree. If you guys didn't have the gift to play, right? And I don't mean this disrespectfully, y'all would probably be nobodies in the church. Just like me. I will speak from my own experience. I've been, like, in church my entire life. For years, I was always overlooked because I'm not the most masculine man in the church. All of a sudden, I started getting involved in singing, and then all of a sudden, my value went up. And then I became somebody.
Like you real estate.
So then people know who I am, and then I'm important.
They fixed the day.
I'm important.
So, I'm sorry. So you're speaking to this infatuation that we have with celebrities.
We have definitely created this system within the church that you got to have something to make you somebody, and when you don't have that, then it's like, okay, well, we'll just make you a parking lot attendant.
And it is
For the usher.
Can I run around the table?
But
please?
that's a ministry in itself, though.
I mean, I'm not knocking the.
I used to do that.
But you ain't never been no parking lot attendant.
You know I was out there with Marvin.
But look,
I see.
relax.
I'm sorry, I slipped this.
I I got a
I do
question
have something
though.
to say to that
He
though.
was an important person to the church.
Like
He still is.
Very important. He parked them cars. He fixed stuff.
Hey, I was about to say something. I love Marvin.
I love him.
Marvin running the church. I mean,
But he don't got the most important. I say that to say, all jokes aside, sometimes them little ministries is important to the church.
No,
we
they
take for granted.
absolutely
Everybody
are.
want to be our hierarchy. Why
But
can't we just park cars?
But everybody wants to be on
It's
stage.
but it's the gift.
No, but what I'm saying, why can't somebody come to the church and say, you know what, I'm gonna be a Marvin?
See,
I mean, here's the thing. Okay, well,
Nobody wanna be no Marvin.
stop name dropping. Which Marvin we love you.
No, I'm
thank-
saying he ain't listening to this podcast.
that's Uncle Marvin.
We know who
I mean, his
Marvin
nephew
is.
might.
We know who he
That's
is.
Uncle Marvin.
Uncle Marvin
Everybody
legit
loves
ran the
Uncle
church.
Marvin.
I say
Marvin
that. I
runs
say
the
that to
church.
say he ran the church and he was good at what he did.
Yes.
And we need more
but
people
see,
like
it's your
him.
gifting too.
But we need more people
Listen,
like everybody
because
want to be the
listen,
top. Everybody want to go and pray for
But
somebody.
listen, but it's your gifting, literally. Because
Marvin
listen,
has a way
you
with
were,
people, I think.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because even like with you being in the back, right? And then you started singing, and it was just like, dang. But when you operated in your gift, it was just like, now I see it. But people don't see all the stuff. Like there's still people in my church who don't even know who I am to the point of like all of me. I have a spiritual mother, and she knows who I am, and she's always been like that person. Like, this is where I need you. I need you here. I need you here. And she's probably the only older person that I've experienced in the church who says, why aren't the kids coming to church, Kenesha? And she actually asks that question, and she'll say, or if she does something wrong to offend a young person and she doesn't see him, she'll come to me and just be like, what did I do wrong? What did I say that was so offensive to her that she didn't want to come back? And I have the utmost respect for her.
Because it sounds like what she's doing is rooted in love.
It's rooted in love and in the simple fact that she realizes that she can't do what she's doing forever. The reason why literally, like, you got older pastors that's pushing 100, not 90, they pushing 100, right? Okay.
In the fast lane.
In the fast lane, okay. Minister such and such been ushering. Like, no one's able to retire. Why can't we just retire from the church and put somebody else in that position that can actually do? Why aren't you, as the minister, finding your replacement?
Titles.
Why aren't you finding your
It's the
replacement?
titles.
And why can't you let that go and allow this young person to do it?
Mark just used the perfect word. Like, I think it's really, we create celebrities in this world of church. And so again, when you
really worship.
Yes, we worship positions.
Worship positions.
We worship
and people.
positions and titles because if I have a title, then you'll see me as being somebody. I'll be an equal. I could be broke, right? But if I got a gift to do something, then like I'm kind of maybe on your level. I'll get invited to dinner.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I think
Like I get it, or I might get a check. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say at this point, it has
She
become
drove me home.
big business.
She drove me home.
And I think we need to.
Wow, why are you doing that?
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I think
Go, Mark.
You might as well drop names. At
Go,
this point.
Mark. Go, Mark.
this cat.
Go, Mark. Don't,
Hey.
Nick.
Don't
I will say this. I'll say this.
don't tempt me.
I think one of the most underlying issues is that.
Oh my God.
Don't worry about that. One of the most underlying issues is we as individual believers, we lack our own identity.
Yes.
We lack knowing
Yes.
who we identify as a personal believer in Christ. We identify as, in our own individual family. For me, I could easily worship the gift that I have. I think I'm pretty good at it. But at the same time,
That boy sharp.
Yeah, booger.
at the same time, I don't like being called a musician. I'm just a servant in the area of music because the underlying thing, everything I do, I want to be a servant. And just like
You've been like that for years.
if let's say Sister Tinsley,
Good job. Way to go. Don't
Let's
start it
say-
with the F. Good job. Proud of you.
let's say that
oh my God.
for whatever reason you lost your pinky toe.
Well,
Your whole
Hey,
listen.
Hey.
your whole equilibrium and everything would be off because everybody sees your face, they see the wonderful nails, the hair, and all that stuff. But the pinky toe is just as valuable as those other members. And it's the same way in church where, once again, it comes back to the culture of the ministry to where we're not exalting the pastor, we're not exalting the music ministry gifts. Everybody here is equal. We just all serve our different functions as part of part of the body, part of the body. Excuse me. So once we really establish that, not only will we be able to run a healthy ministry there, but that's going to be what draws people in. And then once we draw them in, it cannot just be a gimmick, just to get numbers and get good offerings and stuff. Like that's like dating a girl, and first date we have, I'm taking her out to this $500 restaurant. She's going to enjoy it, but then what do I do for a second?
You got to keep going.
You got to maintain that.
$500 day.
So
you can take me out tomorrow. No,
I'm speaking it. But the thing is, we have to really establish real.
I bet that was the best pizza though, dog. You got the best pizza.
She had salmon croquettes.
She repaid me.
But yeah, I think that the church has to be real within itself. But the church has to be real with itself, and then also establish realistic expectations when it comes to what we can really offer the people. And sometimes a church needs to just be forthcoming and say, you know what, we're trash. Like,
they ain't gonna do that.
Welcome.
But once again, our generation would respect that.
face.
Yes.
They would.
By saying, you know what, I was in a situation where, well, I'm in a small city, but they might be able to identify where this was. But I really don't care. We had a situation where the leadership was in terrible activity with one of the parishioners.
Ooh, not parishioner.
And then the parishioner and the
It definitely was.
I don't know. I'm black and slow.
the parishioner and
I don't know what that means.
the minister's spouse had an altercation at a local establishment.
Shut up.
So that did more damage.
Mark, I need you to speak in this.
I found
No.
that out. Let me
Mark, I need
tell
you to speak in these terms. What are you talking about?
Okay, the pastor was having.
I am too.
Okay,
Let's just put that
I'm lost.
all right.
We got to be careful. This
So,
is
let's
Youngstown.
just
We got to
say
be
it.
careful.
We gonna know.
The pastor was having an affair.
Okay, there we go.
The mistress and the first lady had an altercation at one of the
Oh, okay, got you.
establishments.
I was lost.
What was the business?
So no, I'm not going to
what
say
they
that.
sell?
I'm not going to say
I
that.
just,
They sell stuff.
Oh gosh.
The point, the bigger point that I'm making though is that if the leadership would have said, you know what, I fell short. This is what happened, and this is what I'm doing to improve myself to make sure this doesn't happen again. But instead, sometimes we get on our righteous indignation, and we say, "Oh, it was nothing, and nobody could really check me." But then that does more damage than good. And I think it would do more good to say, you know what, this is where I fell short, and hit it straight on like a elephant in the room. Shoot it right in the head, like this is what happened, and more people will be drawn to versus these religious exercises. We Huma Kasha, and we shout and jump out the window. Then people leave.
One more time. What was them tongues?
Huma Kasha.
Oh, okay.
that's a new one. I ain't heard that one. I heard Shaba, but I ain't heard that.
Huma Kasha. That's Egyptian. It's Egyptian.
I got a question though.
Yes, ma'am.
Why is it that we are less forgiving for the church than we are our own relationships? Because literally, even me, I was in a relationship for 7 years.
Yeah.
One of them numbers. And literally, I was a constant forgiving. And then soon as one thing happens to the church, then it's like, boom, it's the church. Don't want to go back. I'm not saying that's what I did, but I'm just saying, why is it that we give more chances in a relationship with somebody, building a relationship? They can be cheating on you, beating on you. They can be doing all of these things, being disrespectful. Yeah. But as soon as something happened for the church,
because we
it's
think
not no
God
chance.
is a magician. That's what people.
Oh, Jesus is magic.
Yeah, I really think that's what it is. People have that. I'm gonna come to church and it's just gonna all be all right.
Plus,
You gonna take away all my financial problems. You gonna lay your hands.
Write out
Okay,
every
we're not gonna
prescription.
start talking
Write
about.
out every
but
prescription.
I'm gonna give you some of that water and throw
The
it on you,
towel.
and it's gonna be I really think that's what people's mindset is. Like, it's magic. Like, it's magic. It's magical. So, because this went wrong or that went wrong or this didn't happen like you said it's going to happen, I'm done.
And I think some people really do, like, they really believe that when the church is, like, when they wooing you and they trying to draw you in so you'll become a member, a lot of people latch onto that idea of community. So a lot of people, like, I'm going to be real with you, and this is my experience. I spent more time with church people than my own blood family.
That's true.
That's true.
That is true.
Like, DeAndre, that's actually how, like, our families are connected, through church. So, like, this is my family. And so what happens is you latch onto this idea of community and family in some situations. And then not only that, but when you're looking at a leader who presents himself in this way of almost like, oh, wow, he's got it together, you hold him to a different standard. I wouldn't expect you to do me like that. But at the end of the day, like, this is where we have to peel back the layers and just be like, hey, look, you put your pants on just like I do. You know what I'm saying? Like, I easily, in this podcast, like, I could offend you at some point. But as brothers, it should be okay for you to come to me and be like, hey, look, I ain't like what you said to me. And for me to be like, you know what? You're right. I please forgive me. But that doesn't really exist in church.
Sheldon, you said one specific word. Sheldon, you said one good word.
I'm sorry, brother.
Go ahead.
As a brother, you did just offend me.
Okay, well, let's talk about it later.
I'll talk about it right now.
Here's the
I met-
church.
Wow, okay.
We met in church
This
also.
is Greater Faith Tabernacle.
All right.
We met in
Saint
church also,
Mary.
and our families are connected also.
I don't know that. Okay.
So Sheldon, you said one.
I didn't want
You
to say
you said a word that I was actually. You said a word that I was actually thinking it in my head, my spirit, and it was, you said somebody expect. It's the expectation that we have of the church. Like, it's the expectation that somebody's going to greet me when I come in the door. It's the expectation that things are perfect in the church, and people just expect perfection. They expect no problems to exist in church. But then the minute, like you said, somebody could be beating on you and talking down on you and everything else like that. But then the one little thing that just is off about the church, somebody's just like, I can't take it no more. Instead of like kind of growing through that, like a spiritual growth process, like, okay, well, they're human like me. Like, I should actually feel more comfortable
Right.
now that you got a little issue going on.
I got to get to know the church just as much as I got to get to know my spouse or my girlfriend
Come
or
on.
my
And
fiance.
sometimes I feel like you will go through, just like you go through growing pains in life in general, you're going to go through that spiritually as well. Yeah, because I was going through some stuff before they approached him about being youth director, and I'm like, I know y'all was talking about identity, and I felt like I never had an identity in the church. My identity was him. That's what it was. So I'm like, I don't want to go to church. I'm going to sit in the back because I'm Wade's wife. Like, that's how y'all know who I am. Otherwise, you wouldn't know who I am if I wasn't married to him.
And just to piggyback off of what she's saying is, like, I actually didn't have identity either.
Oh no, you had.
I definitely.
But here's the thing. They know who I was because of who I was running behind with the bag.
Right.
They knew who I was though. No,
No, but that's how people.
Okay.
No, that's
But
true.
he-
'Cause that's,
But this is what it is.
You can edit that part out.
Please edit that out.
In the bag.
So
And
listen.
I'm running with the bag.
Listen. No, it's not. I'm not saying that.
It's
True.
I love doing
to
it.
be in that position.
I did, and listen, and I stuck my neck out to be in that position. I said, listen, how do I even prayed for that position. Like, how do I get closer so that I can grow? But that was a me thing. It had nothing to do with trying to be noticed. It had nothing to do with trying to, get into some kind of like spiritual celebrity stardom or something like that. No, it was just like, I need to get closer to him because of his growth. So I need to learn how I can grow better.
but because of church culture, that automatically comes with that, though.
Exactly.
Because
People see you
so it automatically
because of
comes with
who
it,
you're
right?
attached to.
See.
And then now I'm definitely like, they're like, oh, that's Wade. It's like,
And then there's Wade's wife.
And then there was Wade's wife.
Oh,
There
he-
she is.
How are you doing today? How are the kids?
Hey, that's that one girl with the locks. The
You
Wade
pushing
married
it.
to her.
Yeah,
Wade married.
You getting it done, you know.
I-
Just all those things. So like having your idea. Sometimes I feel like you might go through stuff to find like I know where my identity is now, you know, but I didn't. But stepping away, like I said, during the pandemic and really being able to connect with God, me and him, and not me, because I got to a point where I was like, you prayed and that ain't happening, or you ain't come and pray with me. I needed you to pray with me. Like, why ain't nobody down here praying with me, laying their hands on me? Is you tired of me coming to the altar? Like, ain't this where I'm so, you know? But I'm like, I can't depend on the people of the church. I have to depend on my relationship with God and where it is that he has me, because sometimes there may not be somebody in church that understands like really where you coming from. So all they can do is say a generic prayer for you, you know, even though some of them be thinking, never mind.
That they prophetic and they know what they're talking about, but they're not prophetic.
You gotta be careful with that too.
Watch out.
It's really finding your identity through that those spiritual pains and that spiritual growth. And I feel like sometimes some of us will be there and we don't know that we're there because like in our flesh, and then the times we're living in, I know we didn't talk about everybody, you know, that's woke and all that different stuff.
Oh, woke.
We want to blame everybody else. Like we really have to get to the root of, once you get to a certain age, that's just like you grow up and your parents constantly, they were trash. You had trash parents. You had a trash upbringing.
But you cannot keep using that.
And you can't do that with the church either.
You cannot do it with the church.
So how long are you going to run around talking about your church hurt?
Yeah.
Because they didn't pray with you, or you didn't like something that went on in the background. Okay, there's other churches. But what people do is, it's not even about being in the church. They completely disconnect from God. You do that on your own. You did. Nobody does that for you. You do that on your own, because if you have a relationship, especially if you've been in church all your life, come on now.
Yes.
Like people don't want to be real with themselves, so they're trying to find somebody to put the blame on. I don't care what the pastor did with his wife, but what you doing with your life? What are you doing to change that? What are you doing to make whatever right, to put yourself in position so that others can come after whatever you're modeling or what you're presenting to,
or never see that again.
Exactly. So that's a layer. Like I will say that over and over again, because I've been in that position. So I don't say stuff like that to just say it. I'm just gonna say it person. But I've been in that position to where I'm God. I'm done. I quit. I don't got nothing else to say. You know, this is going on in the background. I seen this happen. Oh, this happened. Oh, you know. And then when it comes to my husband, if I be like, I don't feel like they doing him right, all that he do, yeah, forget y'all. Like, I'm done. But then I'm like, well, no. Like, those people, they don't control my life. It's God that controls my life, and it's my relationship with him. I talk to him. I communicate with him. I wake up every day because of him, not because they come in. It's time to get up, Jasmine. It's him. So somewhere along the line, even when we have that church hurt, whatever it is, sometimes people don't even dig deep enough in their word. How you're a believer, but you ain't digging in your word. So you don't even know your words to be able to get yourself through whatever it is that you need to get through. So you lost, and now I got to blame it on somebody.
Somebody got to get it.
Somebody has to get it, and we have to break that mentality, especially anybody that's our age sitting in this room. Yeah. Somewhere along the way, you got to take responsibility for yourself.
Full responsibility.
You can't keep blaming the church, because are you still blaming your mom and dad?
Correct.
Yeah, and I was going to speak to that too when it comes to the question you had asked about how is it so easy to forgive somebody else. But then, you know, I think the church is an easy target. Oh. Yes, it's flawed. Like there's flaws and everything, but we do a lot of projecting as people. And the reason why we cannot forgive certain entities is because we have not forgiven ourselves. And I had to go through therapy and everything for my own mental health reasons. And the thing that they taught me that set me free was, and it's crazy, I got set free from a Zoom call with a
psychiatrist,
with a professional. And that's fine, because God used that professional. And that's something else. That could be another topic. Why does the church kind of shun mental health training? They just want to throw oil on you and say, have a good day. pray about it. But the thing he told me is the same approach I would have towards somebody else that is dealing with the same situation. I need to have that approach towards myself. And a lot of the situations I dealt with, and some of my biggest hurts did take place in the church. I blindly followed leadership, just kind of gullible, thinking, well,
They up there.
yeah, I grew up under a man of God. And, I was in the house, so I know what one looks like. And he was not perfect. But at the same time, I thought everybody else held themselves to the same standard. I had to learn the hard way that they don't. But also had to forgive myself for the fact that I reacted based upon what I knew at that time. Now, I could easily say if it was to happen at this time, I would do things different, yeah. But many times we stay stuck because we still blame ourselves for what happened to us. A lot of times it didn't have anything to do with us, but that's where having that good training, having that good culture, once again, having that good people who have I keep on doing the circle thing, but people that have a good pulse on not only what society is, but on their membership as a whole. Because sometimes there might be a spirit or a cycle that could be taking place amongst the people, and that has to be addressed directly. You know what I mean?
So I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Jasmine was saying. Back to the original statement of why millennials are not coming to church. I do think we live in a generation that we don't take accountability for ourselves. Coming from, I got a different perspective of church. I grew up in church, and my brother is actually a senior pastor of a church. So I see a lot of the back end stuff, and I do think people put a lot of blame on the pastor and the church more than they put the blame on themselves in a lot of areas. So I do think that we live in a generation where we blame the church a lot. We don't take accountability of where we are. We don't try to strengthen up our personal relationship. We follow the leaders and everything like that. And what happens is that's a road that can, lead to destruction in your personal life, and I think that when you go to church, I think that you need to be in church learning how to equip yourself to fight your own battles, opposed to needing the pastor to pray for you for everything and be there for everything. I think that we should be able to equip ourselves to pray for our family and our households and our wives and our marriage and stuff, and not rely on everything the church to handle what we need to do in our personal lives. I think that goes back on a lot of why the millennials and stuff, why we're not going to church anymore. It's such negativity surrounding the church these days, brought on by us, like Sheldon was saying in the beginning.
So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because, no, we're staying on the same topic.
Oh, I was about to say, can I say what I was
No,
about
we're
to
staying
say?
on this topic. So all this stuff is good stuff, right? But I want to go to the flip side of things and play devil's advocate just a little bit, because we're hearing a lot of the don't blame the church stuff. So we got to go to people who actually, where we have to blame the church on things, because we're not really hitting on that. And I think we need to speak to more of the crowd who would be listening to this, and they're searching for answers as to maybe why they had to go through what they went through, or maybe this is why they're not going to church. Because we know that aspect, right, of self-accountability. But what about when the church is directly wrong? No ifs, ands, or buts.
Give an example.
And typically,
I got you.
great. I'm glad you asked. So, I'll actually use me in this situation.
Use you. Let them use you.
I went to a church, right? I was married at the time. I was going through a divorce.
Ooh, you talk.
I was going through a divorce. And it got super messy with this, with my ex-wife. She wasn't born and raised in the church, so I was always tell her, like, don't go to church folk for our issues. Let's go get messy. 'Cause church folk get messy in these situations. I don't want to deal with it. Unfortunately, that's what happened. And that's when the circus began to occur. And I know the first thing that jumped off in this circus was a pastor of the church, not the head pastor, but a pastor had sat me down at a Panera, and his last words to me before I looked at him like he was crazy and he got up out of there was, if you divorce your wife, you're going to die. What's good, fam? Hopefully what you've been listening to so far has been extremely informational. Hopefully the stories that we've shared, the information that we've given, the questions that we've asked has been eye-opening. They have been helpful, and definitely conversation starters that you could take back to your peers, your friends, your family. If you attend church, it could be something that you take to your church groups. All in all, we just hope that we're making an impact in some shape, form, or fashion. So this is part 1 of the series of the Millennial Church. Part 2 will be dropped in 2 days. That's right, September the 8th. Part 2 will be dropped. So we hope that you tune in to hear more of the conversation, hear more stories, and hopefully get to some resolution as to how we can help and get to the bottom of this issue. Until then, play the moments, pause the memories, stop the pain, keep the happiness on repeat. Peace.